Hello from Ganja, the largest city on the other side of Azerbaijan in the west of the country here. I came by a bus from Baku and it was around a 5-hour journey. I wanted to see a little bit of the country outside of the capital. I'm just going to show you a little bit of Ganja city this afternoon and this evening, and then tomorrow I'm going to take a bus to Sheki, a village which is a UNESCO World Heritage listed place here in the west side of Azerbaijan. So let's take a little stroll into the center, away from Baku, which is obviously targeted to international visitors and has had a lot of investment. What is Azerbaijan like when we head out of the capital city? Look here at these persimmons growing on the trees, like bright orange baubles here in the crossover between autumn and winter. I remember trying them in China for the first time when I lived there for a year. They are very sweet and juicy. We don't really see them much in the UK, but if you ever get the chance to try them while traveling, you will enjoy them, I think, if you have a bit of a sweet tooth. As I make my way, one thing I've already noticed, and I saw this a little bit in Baku, but it's way more here already. Lots of Ladas, which are Russian cars, probably dating back to before in the 90s or even 80s, when you had the Republic of Azerbaijan. Take a look at this private house here, made out of bottles and stones. You can see them all fitted in there. Another thing that's kind of surprised me here are the number of buildings made from red bricks. All this street here, almost a bit like the north of England. I feel as if I'm in Yorkshire. The Azerbaijani letters there with a backwards E, a little bit similar to Turkish. So I found myself here walking into what looks like the main square of Ganja. That is Heydar Aliyev, if I got the pronunciation right. He was president of Azerbaijan from 1993 to 2003. His decade in charge of the country as it became a republic. I'd now like to take a moment to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, ExpressVPN, who I have been using religiously since 2015, from when I first went and spent a year in China working in a hotel. ExpressVPN was vital to connecting me to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and the like, for all those apps and social media platforms that are banned in China. When it comes to looking for flights, I'm always searching with a different country so that my cookies and my geolocation isn't tracked. Even recently, I was watching Harry Potter on Netflix by connecting to a UK network because it wasn't available in the country I was traveling in. Another aspect I love is being able to use multiple devices, so I can connect ExpressVPN on my phone, I have it on my laptop. My girlfriend is also on my account, she can use it on her devices. And so it goes a long way. It's not like you're limited to browsing on just your phone or just your laptop. Go to expressvpn.com/Jason Billam to find out how you can get 3 months free. An old hammam, a mausoleum just there, and a mosque as well in this part of the center. And it's really a nice area to walk around. I'm impressed by the parks and the wide open streets and spaces here in the middle of Ganja. I want to talk now about something that's been hanging over this city and this side of the country for many decades, if not hundreds of years. And that is the region, the mountainous region nearby named Nagorno-Karabakh. And just talking about it, I will probably get some messages from people on either the Azerbaijani or Armenian side. I'm not taking sides, I'm just relaying some information about the situation there. There has been a conflict ongoing for many years, going back a long time. In 1923, the Soviet Union established the Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Oblast, which was home to 95% of an ethnic Armenian population. But that was located within the Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic. And in 1988, as Azerbaijan and Armenia could smell independence from the Soviet Union, tensions started to boil over the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Armed fighting between the two republics quickly followed. It was then by 1993 that Armenia had gained control of Nagorno-Karabakh, as well as 20% of Azerbaijan's land. By 1994, the Russians helped broker a ceasefire, leaving Nagorno-Karabakh de facto independent but heavily reliant on Armenia. The ceasefire remained in place until 2020 officially, but fighting erupted many times over those decades, and some of the worst of it being in 2016 and then again in 2020, with more than 7,000 soldiers killed, and Ganja here even being bombarded many times. 32 civilians lost their lives from Armenian bombardments. It was then recently in September 2023 that Azerbaijan launched an anti-terrorist offensive in the region. Within 2 days, Azerbaijan claimed to have regained full control over Nagorno-Karabakh. Thousands of the 100,000 ethnic Armenians living in the disputed territory fled to Armenia, fearing persecution if they stayed. I suppose it's an example of what happens when you have an ethnic minority in an enclave within the borders of another country, and those two republics get their independence. Tensions will boil over, violence erupts, and unfortunately it has resulted in the loss of life of many on both sides. And one thing that's very evident as I walk around Ganja is the number of posters of soldiers who died in the fighting, fallen martyrs. You see the dates, some of them being as recent as 2023. So I think it's a conflict that you should be aware of before visiting Azerbaijan, especially here in Ganja, being so close to the region. And the loss of life on both sides is very sad, and it's a shame international media hasn't really put it on our radars enough. It does get talked about from time to time, but only 4 years ago bombs were dropping in this very city, killing civilians, and it's in the minds and hearts of many locals walking these streets around me now, and felt on the other side of the border over there in Armenia. So I'm now back here in the room that I am in Ganja. It's kind of an interesting room. My stuff is spread out everywhere. 3 single beds. I have one of them, but I have the whole private room to myself. It's around 27 Azerbaijani manat per night. I went into the local mosque just nearby where I talked about the conflict in that area. I popped inside and just observed the evening prayer, then went to a restaurant called Zolotoy. The chicken rice soup was incredible, and then afterwards I had some small meatballs with bread, with salad as well, and finishing off with an Azerbaijani tea. I'm going to rest early tonight, pack my things, and then tomorrow, hopefully, I can find a way to reach Sheki, the UNESCO World Heritage listed village. And I don't know if it's going to be a little minivan or if it will be a bus. I'm just going to head to the bus station and ask in the morning, when is the next one for Sheki, or Shaki, however you're supposed to pronounce it. I'll see you in the morning. Hello and welcome back to Ganja. This is the main bus station here. There are some larger buses and then also smaller vans leaving for different destinations here, and we are heading to Shaki here at 4:30. By the time I arrive in Shaki, it'll probably be dark, so I will take a few shots along the way and update you once I've arrived. Hello from Sheki. I have made it here on the bus, and this is where I'm staying. The front garden has a bathtub in it. Quite a cozy looking place though here with the autumn leaves as usual. This is like a little kitchenette attached to my room, which interestingly enough has a sofa bed and 2 single beds. I've noticed this in Azerbaijan. Tell me why in the comments below. Have you also seen this? Or maybe you're from here. Why do so many hotels only provide single beds and then they give you a room of 3 or 4 of them? I think I've seen it 3 or 4 times now here in the country. Kind of bizarre, but maybe there's a reason to it. So on this kind of misty day with a chance of rain, I am going to wander around and make my way to the palace. This town is UNESCO recognized. Just like Ganja, it looks like there are a lot of larders around. I just want to have a look at this park right opposite where I'm staying. I love this tree. Couldn't get more autumny than that. Look over here. What is this? Wow. This is just on the side of some random building. Stone tablets, depictions of children and lambs, fruit, people playing musical instruments. Maybe this is supposed to symbolize the trade routes of Sheki. Believe it or not, this is also a stop on the Silk Road, just different to the ones in Uzbekistan that I saw recently in Samarkand and Bukhara. Sheki's position on the Silk Road was one with the other Caucasus, trade with Anatolia, Turkey, parts of southern Russia, and also towards Persia. So that is why this town produced a lot of wealth, and we'll see that in the palace as I make my way over this afternoon. So this here is the main town center of Sheki on this misty day, and I'm conscious of the fact that it's going to get dark in an hour, especially because it is mistier today. So I think I'm going to jump in a taxi, which is going to take me to the old Khan's palace. Just 2 manat for that quick journey up to the top of the hill on the other side of the town. And I am outside the Sheki castle with the palace inside its walls. You can see the mountains surrounding here. UNESCO World Heritage listed sign, the newest in Azerbaijan, 2019. It was given or recognized by UNESCO for its World Heritage status. Entering the walls through the main gate where many visitors to the local Khans would have come to wine and dine and talk trade and politics and current affairs of the day. Sadly, this church, what was once probably a church, is locked, but looks epic with that backdrop. And this would have all been the grounds of the fortress. You can see the walls there and over there too. And the palace is hiding behind this restaurant and these buildings here. So here it is, Caravanserai, dating from 1762. What's amazing about these windows is from the outside you cannot tell just how colourful and illuminating they are. From the interior, I read that these two huge plane trees in the front garden were planted in 1530. Okay, so I've just been inside the palace. It is 9 manat to enter, and sadly you cannot take any pictures on your phone, even no videos, nothing. So everything you have to take with you here. But there are pictures of the inside, of course, on the internet, and I'm going to overlay as I talk a little bit. It astonished me. The glass windows are out of this world, perhaps the best stained glass windows I've ever seen, and I've seen quite a few good ones, particularly, you know, in churches in England, the old cathedrals and that sort of thing. You've got the ornate patterns on the ceiling and the walls, which are impressive, but really it is the windows that steal the show. You can see those two large crane trees through from the inside, but you can't see inside from the outside. I imagine if you're there and the sunlight is shining through on a morning, it would be quite a magical experience. Those visitors who came from other lands to do business and trade here, when they were invited to the palace, they would have been astonished by the colors and the wealth created in this town, which today people don't really know much about, but in its heyday this was a rich place, a haven for silk trade. Coming out of the fortress, making my way a little bit down the town. This is the Caravanserai, where traders and merchants would have stayed and stored their goods. So the first thing that you might think is that if you were a merchant trading your goods on the Silk Road, it would have been a rough existence, traversing through deserts, and, you know, accounts of people like Marco Polo sort of create that idea. But people stayed in relatively good conditions here. If you can imagine, this wasn't some dusty shack that you would spend the night in. No, you would have had a comfortable, warm place to stay. This wasn't some poor man's budget hotel. The people who stayed here had money, and they were making a lot of money, and in turn it was giving them beautiful morning views to wake up to. If this was a hotel today and you walked out onto your balcony in the morning and saw this central garden and the trees and the mountains in the background, you would probably say it's a pretty good hotel. During those times, people lived a lot better than we might think, which this caravanserai helps illustrate. It's getting even more misty now, the fog glooming as I walk around these local streets. It is amazing to see all the old cars and buildings here, especially in this weather. I love it. So as it got dark, I hopped in another taxi and made my way to the other side of the city to try Sheki piti, which is the famous local dish of Sheki. It comes in a clay pot and you pour this liquid broth-like soup into a bowl with croutons and then scatter a little bit of sumac on the top, and then the mutton and the fat and the chickpeas remaining, you mash it together and scoop it out. On the side I've also got some greens with a bit of beef there too, and some local bread. This is without doubt the best thing I've tried in Azerbaijan so far. So many flavors going on here. So I just finished the Sheki piti and made my way back here to where I'm staying, and that's going to be all for this video and Azerbaijan. I got to see a little bit outside of Baku after exploring the capital. I'll see you on the next one.